Welcome to the webinar. This is a demo of Paperless Parts with a current medical customer, Arch Medical. We have Casey representing from their side. Um, we're going to go through a couple of the very specific medical features that are in the platform, and then we're going to have time for questions at the end. So, as we're going through this presentation and demo, if you have any questions, please, either write them down in the chat or put them in the Q&A, and we'll make sure that we save time at the end to go through those. But I'm going to get jumped in here, just quickly go through our agenda. We're going to go over a little bit about paperless parts, just some high-level background information. Give Casey a minute to introduce Arch Medical. Like I said, go into the paperless parts demo and then a Q&A here at the end. Just a little bit about paperless parts. We are the leading quoting tool in the industry. We've been around since 2017. We've got 900 plus customers. We've spent a whole lot of time developing this tool with those customers as we've grown through the years to really make sure that the features that we're building are features that our customers would get a lot of use out of. So, while this tool is, yes, built by Paperless Parts, there's been a lot of customer feedback that has allowed us to get it to the place that it's at now. So hopefully you'll be able to see that in the usability of the platform as we get in.
I'm Casey Guerin. I'm the engineering manager at Arch Olive Branch location. We have, of course, 20 facilities nationwide. We're all contract manufacturing shops. Of course, total square footage of manufacturing space, 800,000. We're all ISO certified, and then we all manufacture implants and instruments at all locations.
So, and you
And
guys have, go ahead, Casey.
we started using paperless parts in the Olive Branch facility in 2022. We actually utilized the integration feature with our ERP system, Job All Squared.
What are some of the benefits that you see out of having that integration, Casey?
It's a huge cost saving from admin work and timing. So basically, our engineers are able to process the quotes that we quoted in paperless parts into our ERP system within seconds. It basically transfers everything over, and then they're able to just fine tune anything that may be necessary afterwards.
So kind of eliminating that duplicate entry of data and giving the process engineers like a head start on what the estimating team was thinking about.
Correct. Yes. And it eliminates, of course, any human error that could possibly be there for typos, anything in that nature.
Very cool. Well, we'll get into the platform here and go through a couple of the features that Arch is getting a lot of use out of, and then talk about some of the features that our medical customers are really leveraging to make sure that they're at the right place in the market and that they have the data that they need to make intelligent business decisions in front of them, and then as well as eliminating a lot of the admin work and a lot of the data entry that goes along with quoting typically. So I'm going to switch our screens here, and we're going to get into the platform. So what you're seeing here is our platform dashboard. This is where you can see our entire quote list. These are all of the active quotes that we have to do at our shop. A couple of the areas that I want to point out here, and you'll notice these as we get deeper into the platform, but this is also kind of your command center for managing task and review items that are assigned to you. So instead of, having a big list of emails that you have to go back through and, hey, did I forget to do something? You have all of your task and review items here. That way nothing falls through the gaps. Are you guys utilizing this today, Casey, to make sure there's not a missed opportunity?
Yes, absolutely. Basically, everybody throughout Arch uses the task assigned. Basically, the quoter or business salesman will definitely assign tasks to different facilities that may need to actually come in and quote that particular product because it fits their product line. and basically it will help the salesman that is amongst all of Arch know which business unit is associated with that quote.
Cool. The other view that we have, this is more for, getting into the weeds. I'm going to click over here to the quotes tab. And what you're going to see is, this is kind of like a big spreadsheet, right? But you can go in and you can very easily see details on where RFQs are at. So you can see line item statuses. We have custom workflows in the platform. So, there may be specific gates for your business that a quote typically goes through. Hey, has a salesman reviewed it? Has engineering reviewed it? Do we have the material pricing back in the outsourced service? This is where you can go in very easily and see what is done and what is not done um, in the process yet. And all of these views are customizable over here on the left-hand side. So, if you've got an outsource manager and they only want to see the items that still have outsourcing requests still active, then you can set a view specifically for that. Real quick before we go into the quote, just want to notate a little bit about how we got this quote into the system. There's two different ways. One is the manual quote creation over here on the top right hand side. The other way is to actually forward that email directly into the system. So each paperless parts instance will have its own unique email key, and you just save that email key as a contact. Whenever you receive an RFQ, you forward that RFQ directly in the system, and we're going to allow the system to start working for you immediately. So that's how we got this quote in the system. And you can see here, we do have a subject line of the email underneath the quote number. That way you can see, you don't have to go digging too far to find what the relevant quote that you're trying to get into. But once we get into the quote here, you got some pretty basic header information. Hey, when is the quote due? What is the expiration? Your CSMs or your sales members can go in here and set priorities. Hey, I don't want to necessarily get quotes in, first out. I've got a list customer that they always take priority over everybody else. So, we want to make sure that they're serviced first. But there's a couple of reasons that we forward this email in. One, you're going to start seeing some purple that gets automatically filled out here. That's where we're using our AI to eliminate the data entry portion, eliminate a lot of the admin steps. So that's the first part. We're scraping that email to find that relevant information. Things like, hey, when was the RFQ received? Who was the buyer that sent in my RFQ? And we can automatically tag in the salesperson or CSR that's assigned to it. And whenever we have that contact and it's associated with an account, you get this nice little CRM card here. So this is where you can document order revenue and quote sent last 30 days in all time, as well as their payment methods and payment terms. And then you can have anecdotal notes on here. So think about your customer matrix, things like Stryker requires an FAI every single time that we're quoting a new part. So things like that are typically documented here. Curious, Casey, how are you guys using this?
Exactly what you stated. Any requirements from our customer that's on tied to our customer matrix is populated in that field according to what they want us to ship as, or any lot number information if they have templates or whatnot. Any basically requirements that would be needed from the customer is populated there, so anybody can quickly refresh their memory if they don't usually typically quote that customer's work.
It's kind of democratizing that information.
Yes, correct.
Absolutely. So once you've got a good sense of your customer, you've got your top end set up. Now it's time to get into the actual files. So you can see here we are saving out a copy of that email, and then all of the files that are attached, we're bringing those over as well. If you have a zip file, you can very quickly unzip within the platform. But these files were just forwarded in along with the email. There was not a separate task or a separate upload that needed to be happening. Um, so going along with the theme of scraping the email for objective admin task, the next part of that is, what is the actual request? I've got all these files. I know who the buyer is, but what did my customer actually want me to quote out to them? And so we're scraping the email to find that out. So you can see here, we scrape the email for the part numbers that they requested, along with the quantities that they requested. If the description or rev lives in the email as well, we'll bring that out and fill that in for you. but this is going to allow us to start building the structure of our quote in a very short amount of time. And we'll go through that now. So now I've built out my individual line items. The next step of this is we're going to look at our part number and our line item. We're going to look at our file name. And then we're also going to go into the PDF and look at the part number that lives inside of the PDF. And we're going to do the file sorting for you. So this is what I call like, adding the meat onto the bones. And that's going to be those technical specifications. So we can see we have the flag here, add to line item. I'm going to click it. And in a very short period, you'll see all of our files get moved over. Now you can get a good sense of what you do and don't have for this RFQ. So, just visually, as I'm looking down through here, I can see, hey, line item 1, I've got a model for. Line item 2, I don't have a model. I just have a print. Line item 6, I don't have any files for that. Did they mean to send me that part number to quote, or was that on accident? And so instead of a quote going into a queue and having a person, get to it 3, 4 days later, your CSRs or salesmen can do this part of the task, and it'll allow them to get back to the customer within 15 minutes of getting the email, the initial RFQ, and say, hey, you forgot to send me these documents. Can you please provide them so that I can get your quote back? So it kind of gives them that white glove treatment, and so that they have that priority view. Casey, are you guys using this feature today to just like cut down on the number of people that it takes to get something like this started up?
Yes, it has saved a tremendous amount of time doing the email forwarding, where it auto populates your quote. Previously, we used to do it manually, and since this feature was, of course, upgraded, it has saved probably, I would say, a easy probably hour to 2 hours, depending on how big your quote package is. And that's on, of course, every quote. So it definitely is a very beneficial feature that Paperless Parts has added.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. The next part of this is, and how I think about quoting, um, is, you're looking at the parts, you're visually identifying, hey, is this something that is or is not a fit for me? So that's kind of the while we have these thumbnails here on the left-hand side so that you can quickly tell that, maybe you can say, hey, this part number doesn't fit our shop, so I'm not going to quote it. The other part of that is are there requirements that live on the PDF that can cause me not to quote it? So you guys know, like I do, our the job at the end of the day is to make parts to print, not to make parts to model. Be nice if it was just to make parts to the model, but we do have print specifications that we have to meet. So I can click on this requirement review items. I can say I have 10 flags here. And what this is going to do is it's going to surface all of the requirements that I've told the system that I care about and that I want them to go look for. So, I've got 3 line items here that have anodize on it. I've got 2 mil spec. This pack individually, that may be a no-go for my shop. So I don't want to package individually. I'm going to immediately no quote this item. So you can come in and you can take bulk actions all at one time to satisfy those. So that's kind of the second triage to make sure you're not spending time on parts that are not going to be good fits for your shop, and that you're surfacing the critical specs off the print. Going into it, we will jump into this line item here. Did want to point out real quick. So I know a lot with the complex instrument world, we have a lot of assemblies that we have to deal with, and a lot of the time spent in quoting is building out some of those more complex bombs. So whenever you do have a assembly part, and I'm just going to open this up. You saw me just drag and drop it from our supporting files into creating a line item. Once you scroll down, you'll see that we're actually automatically breaking out the bomb for you. So we'll use the structure of the model or the bomb table that lives on a PDF to automatically create that bomb. I know whenever I was quoting, this saved me a ton of time. This is one of my primary reasons for, going with a tool like Paperless. Casey, you guys seeing similar things on your side of the fence?
Oh, yes, absolutely. A lot of our instruments that we manufacture are complex, so they're, probably have 20 to 30 components within that one assembly. So it definitely saves tremendous amount of time. having paperless parts versus doing it in our ERP system. Doing it in your ERP system, you're looking at, 10, 20, 30 minutes, depending on how many components are there. So this definitely is a huge cost savings that we utilize throughout paperless.
I know one of the it sounds silly saying it out loud, but one of the things that I really liked it for was the node quantities, because on, some of the
Yeah.
more complex, instruments, you may be looking at a single component that costs 4 or $500. Well, if you're if you don't cost out but a node quantity of 1 versus 2, you immediately lose $500 on that job. So, people are usually really diligent in building that out, so it takes that extra time to make sure that their quantities are right. Um, I know, one of the part files that I threw at Paperless Parts, first off, whenever we were going through our evaluation, was a retractor that had 130 unique components, and I'd spent about a day and a half building out that bomb, and Paperless Parts built it out in about 30, 45 seconds. We will go into line item 1 here and actually start costing out this part. So, a couple of the things that you'll see, once again, we have this purple. We're using RAI to scrape the revision and the description off the print. The other thing that we're doing once we get into a specific line item is that we're looking for matching parts. So, one of the first thought processes that estimator typically goes through is they look at it and they say, okay, well, what have I built that's similar to this in the past? So I can open up this matching parts feature here. We can see we're surfacing exact file matches, but we're going a little bit deeper than that. We're also looking at the geometry across all of the other line items that you've quoted in the past. And you can very easily, there's a lot of gen upping in medical. So whenever you do have that gen up and hey, the geometry is still the exact same thing, but it's got a purple handle on it versus a green handle and it's a drastically different part number. You can very easily go in here and you can copy and paste that routing and all of those times for the other for the last gen part. And then we're also servicing similar geometry. So, hey, this part is very close to a predicate part that I quoted a couple months ago. Instead of you having to remember that in your head, having a senior estimator remember that, we're surfacing that to you here, and you can very easily look at the visual differences and say, hey, the one that I'm quoting now has a channel built in. This one does not. So I'm going to copy and paste my process and add an additional 5 minutes onto it. So there's a lot of experienced estimators doing this already in their head. So, but that's kind of the problem. It's in their head. It's not in a system somewhere. So this is how we systemize that travel information. Scrolling down, what we're going to do now is we're going to actually put a process to this part, and a process is a like a routing template that has some smart features built into it. For my shop, this is pretty generic. This is a milled part. You can get it as specific as, hey, this is a counter torque versus a reamer versus a drill versus a inserter versus a dilator. You get very, very specific with the types of router templates that you have built. That way you're closer to the truth, from the start. So I'm just going to go in. This is going to be CNC milling for me. We are looking at the PDF and surfacing the material. So it's going to suggest it to us here. And then I'm going to update. And what this does is this kickstarts our geometric interrogation engine that works in the background. So I'll open this up now. So within here, you do have a free CAD viewer in the system. You've got some basic tools. So if you've got a estimator that, maybe they have a seat of Fusion 360 just for being able to analyze models. We see shops typically be able to save that little bit of money, or even maybe they have to be able to view CATA files or MBD files. We can view those within here as well. But you get some bounding box. You've got measurement tools in here to measure against faces if a dimension doesn't live on a print. We have this selection tool as well. And so really encourages the communication between team members. So you can very easily go in here and select a face that maybe you have a question about. So I've got that face selected. I can come in here and add that in, and I'm going to tag in my more experienced estimator, Chris, and say, hey, can we do this blend? So you can send that out, and once you get that sent out, they'll get a notification that, hey, you're wanting to collaborate over a part. And whenever they open that up, it'll rotate it around to the exact zoom and view that you had whenever you made it. Uh, Curious, Casey, I know you guys have a off-site estimator. Are y'all getting a lot of benefit out of this IM service here?
Yes, no, he uses it pretty much every day, especially for some complex geometries that we may see. So he'll basically tag in any other person that's on site to get with the programmers and discuss, different opportunities if it does not work out, as far as if it's not machinable, if it's only plungible, and if we need to make a note for any DFM to the customer regarding unmachinable features.
What about I think I'd heard, you guys may be using some of the external chat features as well.
Yes. So, like any of the DFM features that we may request from our customers if we do win the product, that of course is in the external chat. Then we can, you know, talk with them afterwards once we get the PO in place and basically have all the information at our fingertips and be able to discuss with them no matter what engineer received the product
So
or the
kind
project.
of eliminating the drawing a bunch of error, taking a snippet of the CAD within your CAD software, drawing a bunch of arrows to it and say, hey, this feature, that face, we need to do X, Y, Z. It kind of puts it all into this system.
Exactly. Definitely had a lot of feedback from customers that how they enjoyed the collaborations with the models, not just 2D prints and snippets. And I jump on a Teams call. It's basically interactive with each other, and they can actually chat within the same platform too. So it definitely helps speed up the process.
And I gotta imagine that kind of, it also triggers these guys are investing in software. These guys are investing in the next generation to make themselves better. So it kind of gives a good presentation to your customer, is what I found. Um, but going here, so once we've interrogated the model, we'll call out, very specific features for the milling. We've got the counterbore countersinks. We have the holes that are on this part. We have machining directions. I like to think of machining directions as a complexity indicator. It's all relative to the type of work that you're used to doing. 6 for my shop may be simple, whereas in other people's shop it may be more complex. So we can set rules that say, hey, anything that is over 6, I need to tag in a more experienced estimator or a programmer to go in and program that part to give us really good cycle time. The other area of this is the warnings. So, I have deep hole warnings clicked on here. I've got, for my instance, I don't have high pressure coolant in my mills. So any depth to diameter ratio past 10 on a standard hole, I can't do it in my mill. So I know that I have to add in an additional process. And all of these warnings over here on the left-hand side are customizable to your shop so that you make sure you're having relevant flags and not just, everything underneath the sun. But want to make sure that we save time for questions and feedback. I'm going to go through a couple more steps and then we'll pause there. The next really important part of this, you saw where were able to surface, the high level requirements based off of what your shop typically looks for. This is where you can go in and start really diving into the print. So you can see we've got all of our dimensions highlighted across. We're looking for very specific things across anodize or mil spec, and we're allowing you to build rules so that you can handle those things the same way every time. One of the ones that I like to call out is, surface of a profile to 3 datums. I know in my shop that I want to CMM check that every time. So maybe I want to bring in my CMM programmer to make sure that we can have a program to inspect that part. We can do that via the rule creation. So I'll step through that very briefly. So you just click on a dimension that you want to create a rule. I'll go into the exact type of rule that I was just talking about, right? So I'm going to go into my control frames. I'm going to go profile of a surface. Whenever it has a datum reference count of greater than 2, I want you to bring it up to my attention. And then as my resolution options, I can go in, I can add a specific operation. So that CMM inspection, I'll just go inspect, general inspect. You can add more. So, if you have 3 or 4 operations that need to happen because of something you see on a print, you can add those there. And then I'm going to automatically assign my outsourcing manager, or I'm sorry, my CMM programmer to check that they can program this part. And now once I've created that rule, anytime that we see our signal, what we're telling the AI to look for across the print, it's going to trigger the same action. That way you're repeatable and you're consistent. It doesn't just have to be off of dimensions, though. It can also be off of text that live on a print. So think about your customer matrix that your QMS system probably has somewhere. You probably have to take very specific steps to meet those specifications. We can build a customer matrix, a spec matrix in the background here to where you can do that as well. So, any text, we can also do format searching as well to make sure that you're catching those and it's not biting you in the butt. One of the examples that I've heard quite frequently is, gamma X-ray testing across laser welds. So anytime that it has that spec in there, I know that I have to go to gamma testing. So I want to make sure that I add that operation in. This is a relatively new feature in paperless parts. It's been honed and increased in functionality over the past like 6 months. Um, but definitely something that our medical customers are getting a lot of use out of with all of the custom or customer specifications that they have to deal with. Going back over, now we can get into estimating our actual part. So one of the first things here that we're doing is because we understand the size of the part, we can look at the bounding box and we can help you select material based off of your internal material database. And then we have our router built out here. So we have our geometry creation steps, and then we have those subsequent steps that need to happen for our shop, like deburr, inspection, shipping prep. And just know that, any of these expansions that you see here, we can very easily go in and make customized solutions. So if you can think of a scenario of if I see this geometry on a part, or if I see this on a print, then I need to do X. We'll build that in for you automatically. Things like, hey, CNC deburr, we can actually look at the total surface area of the part and say, hey, it's going to take 15 seconds per square inch of the part to deburr this. That's our shop's standard, so it'll automatically go in there and do the math for you. Scrolling on down. Then we get into costing. So in paperless parts, costing and pricing are 2 different buckets. Costing is this is the how much it costs me to build this part, no matter who the customer is, no matter what day, or if I'm slow or if I'm busy. And then pricing is usually strategic or tactical. So if you guys have global pricing strategies that you've built, based off of customer type or specific customers, based off material type, based off of program type, we can build those in the background. That way, no matter who is estimating, you're not relying on their memory to bring in those margins or markups. You can utilize the system to do it automatically for you. And all of this is customized. We haven't ran into a situation yet where we haven't been able to take however our customers think about costing and pricing and apply this to paperless parts. And anything in blue here, you have the opportunity to go in and change. So say I'm feeling generous, and Courtney or CNC's machining has been great to us lately, and I want to take them from 20 to 15. I can do that. And then you get an audit trail of who changed it, when they changed it, what the original calculated value is. So you can go in here and you can fine tune your quote. Are you guys using the markup margin to really just attack price points that you can hit at?
Yes, yeah, we definitely manipulate the margin according to the customer. especially if it gets real competitive. We'll go in and definitely have a quick, easy um, field to go directly to, and adjust the margin as needed to benefit us and the customer, whoever it may be.
Don't want to get too deep in there on the arch side. Um, but then you get into add-ons. So this is where you can add, things like FAIs, NRE fees, tooling charges, CFCs. So, whatever that is required, say this is a new part and it's with Stryker and in my customer matrix, we know we have to build a FAI. We can build rules where it's automatically going to populate an FAI for us, and then we can drive the FAI cost based off of the complexity of the part. So, this is a really complex part, so maybe the FAI charge is only, $300, or hey, this is a really complicated one, so it's going to populate 1,000 for us. The only that's really the end of the quote, and then we get into sending it out. The only other part that I wanted to mention here was on the analytics side. Um, So, analytics are, especially at the quoting stage, are just as important to your business as, getting accurate clock in and clock outs from your machinist. And this is where we're able to surface a lot of that for you. So we can track win rate by customer. We can track win rate by operation type. So one that I like to call out is, hey, if I have to touch it with my wire EDM machine or my sinker EDM machine, I can go across and I can see my win rate reduces to 10% on an EDM versus if it doesn't have an EDM machine. So either, we're not as efficient on the EDM as we should be, or other people are pricing it out differently and we need to, get more competitive. And you can look and you can say, okay, if I increase my win rate for parts that go across the EDM machine by 10%, what could that impact on revenue be? Obviously there's other factors that go into it, but a lot of that data isn't being tracked right now for a lot of our prospects that we talk to. And a lot of it is because it's manual. Somebody has to manually fill out something to be able to track it, versus it being done for you here automatically. So I know more leadership, Casey, on your side uses this, like at the corporate level. But
Yes, yeah, no, all the corporate definitely analyzes this page more than site specific.
uh, but any of that data that we've built in that quoting stage, we can query against. So however you want to splice and dice it, it's up to you. What I'm going to do is, we also have Allie on the call as well from Paperless Parts, helping me moderate this. Are we good to switch over to questions, Allie, or do we
Yeah,
want to go?
go ahead.
All right. So I'm going to switch back over to the questions. Oh, questions page. But I will say, before I dive into questions, and I forgot to mention this, if you guys want to have more of a hands-on experience with the software, we will be at OMTech, and we'll be there all week. So we'll be booth number 621. Feel free to stop by. We also have a meeting room. So if you want to plan out ahead to get further into the uh, platform, we can go sit off in a meeting room somewhere and do that deep dive.